Hello everybody, my name is Althusser, and I hope that you're having a good day, evening, or night when you're viewing this. This is my theoretical presentation on Althusser for media psychology for Robert Bursa's class. Alright, let's begin. Let's first discuss a little bit about Althusser before we dive deep into the text we reviewed earlier this semester. So, Louis Althusser was born October 18th, 1918 in Algera. He was most well known for commentating on Karl Marx's texts and Marxism to build a true principle of them. So basically just commenting and just making his approach a little bit more digestible and understandable, I guess, in a sense, and trying to see how that has been applicated in real life scenarios. And Althusser's principle is called ideological state paralysis. The importance of ideology. So what even is ideology? Someone else's thoughts, seldom our own. That thought might be ideological is a suggestion that we almost instinctively reject, lest the foundations of most cherished conceptions turn out to be composed of more sifting sand than we like. So my interpretation on that quote is more or less like ideology is a concept that it's not necessarily like a rule for us to follow, but more of like a suggestions. And from those suggestions, we kind of pick and choose what we like to use in our everyday lives and what's beneficial to us. So here's another quote that I found was a good explanation on what ideology is from McLennan. Therefore, the history of the concept of ideology is the history of various attempts to find a grim Archimedean point outside the sphere of ideological discourse, an immortal spot from which to observe the levers of ideology at work. So this was the biggest point and kind of the whole basis of the paper was what is RSA versus ISA. So what's the difference? Repressive state apparatus is a public domain, authority law, and functions by violence, and uses police, prisons, and government to reinforce a power of authority. So basically meaning that there's always going to be a higher power and there's always going to be some type of authority figure to kind of reign supreme and kind of give orders for everybody else to follow. So basically meaning that there's always going to be a higher power and there's always going to be some type of authority figure to kind of reign supreme and kind of give orders for everybody else to follow. Ideological state apparatus is a private domain, internal law, and mainly functions on ideology, and uses churches, families, and state unions. So with the case of ideological state apparatus, it's mostly, like I said, functions on ideology, so meaning it's more based on the beliefs on individuals themselves rather than someone of power. So there's a little bit more free range in what people can do and what people can believe. But it's still important to note that both ISA and RSA are double functioning, which meaning they can also both use repression and their structures. RSA uses repression first and ideological ideas second. Well, ISAs usually use ideology first and repression second. As mentioned a little bit in the previous slide, ISAs can apply to religious institutions, so like churches, any other type of places to worship, educational settings such as elementary schools, high schools, universities, family structures, so families and extended family, cultural, so whatever cultural surroundings that you're in, political, communications, so that's coming from anywhere we kind of get our information, so that could be from in our modern case, social media, TV, radio, newspapers, and trade unions. Class struggles are prominent in ISA. No class can hold power over a long time period without the same time exercising its hegemony over in a state ideological oppresses. Also uses the real-life example of ISA from Vladimir Lenin. Lenin was the leader of the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917 and later became the founder of the Russian Communist Party. Vladimir Lenin has been praised as a socialist as he fought against the Bolsheviks in 1917 to seize power and to make the first socialist state, showing how Karl Marx's Marxism theory can be implemented into the real life as he understood the struggles of the class struggles that many individuals face. Materialistic prominence in ISAs. The ideological always exists in apparatus, and its practice or practices this existence is material. Individuals typically put their world through an image. So such cases is through religion. So we usually praise some type of figure or even like objects such as crosses. Althusser mentions that schools, churches can be used in a way to employ punishment, disciplining how ideology is disciplined through material means. An ideology is always exists in apparatus, and its practice or practices this existence is material. Individuals as subjects and ISA. Interpellates are subjects. So what that means is just interpellates as us are also seen as subjects in ISA. So the top quote is from Althusser. The writing I'm currently existing and the reading that you're currently performing are also in this respect rituals of an ideological recognition, using the obvious which the true or the error, but to recognize that we are subjects and that we function on the practical rituals of the most elementary everyday life. Okay, lastly, why is Althusser's principle and the text so important to understanding media? So it's important while engaging in media to take a deep look into the context of what's being presented to you. Know when interpolation is being used in media, as it's not always going to be truthful and it can engage in realistic practice for a message and for an audience that they're trying to appeal to. So ask yourself, am I doing something or am I believing into something because I want to, or was I conditioned to do so?